The classroom buzzed with the usual chatter of alien species, each form of communication as diverse as the students themselves. Tentacles waved, appendages clicked, and strange vocalizations filled the air as Professor Sopel prepared for his lecture. His many compound eyes scanned the room, each focused on a different student, from the plant-based cirques in the middle to the gelatinous blob known as Gloopthorpe in the back. "Settle down, students," the professor began, his tentacles waving dramatically to signal the start of the lesson. "Today, we will discuss why the Zorg and Nebula is strictly off-limits to all sentient life forms." He flicked a switch, and a holographic display of the swirling, ominous nebula appeared behind him. "Any questions before we proceed?" A forest of appendages shot into the air, representing a vast array of alien life, traditional arms, prehensile tails, and oozing pseudopods, all eager to ask their questions. The professor's eyes scanned the eager faces until he spotted a gel blob in the back row. "Gloopthorpe," he called out, gesturing toward the amorphous student. "Go ahead." The gelatinous figure burbled excitedly before speaking. "But Professor, what about the rumors of a human expedition into the nebula last solar cycle?" A hush fell over the room. Even the ambient hum of the life support systems seemed to quiet in anticipation. Professor Sopel visibly tensed, his exoskeleton clicking as he turned back to face the students. "Ah, yes," the professor replied with a nervous trill. "The humans. Always the humans." He paused, seemingly gathering his thoughts. "Well, I suppose we should address the chronic in the room, shouldn't we?" The professor cleared his throat, or the anatomical equivalent of it, and continued. "Humans, as you know, are a relatively new addition to the Galactic Federation of Sentient Species. They are, how shall I put this delicately, one of the universe's most confounding anomalies." The students murmured in agreement, some even laughing softly. "They have this inexplicable ability to befriend things, dangerous things, creatures that, by all logical reasoning, should reduce them to subatomic particles without a second thought." With a flick of his tentacle, Professor Sopel switched the holographic display to show a human petting a six-headed beast with more teeth than seemed biologically necessary. "This, class, is what humans call a good boy. The rest of us call it a killin' death beast, a creature that makes apex predators wake up screaming in the night." The students gasped, some instinctively activating their defensive shields, while others, like the Velian at the front, molted in sheer terror. "Relax, relax," the professor chuckled, clicking his mandibles. "It's just a recording." He gestured toward the Velian. "Though I must say, Zorak, that was an impressive display of molting. You might want to consider a career in the performing arts." The class laughed softly, the tension slowly dissipating. But Gloopthorpe, still jiggling with excitement, wasn't done. "Professor, what about the rumors of Captain Jack Harper? Did he really go into the Zorg and Nebula?" A collective intake of breath filled the room. The name alone was enough to send shivers down the spine of any sentient being. Captain Jack Harper's exploits were legendary and reckless, to say the least. The professor sighed, his exoskeleton seeming to sag. "Yes, Gloopthorpe, it's true. Captain Jack Harper did, indeed, lead a human expedition into the Zorg and Nebula." He paused to let the words sink in, and, as absurd as it sounds, they survived. A wave of disbelief rippled through the classroom. Even the normally stoic robotics student, TX-42, whirred in confusion, its processors struggling to compute the impossibility of the situation. To be continued. "You said, 2. ChatGPT said, ChatGPT. Here's part 2 of the story." The shock in the room was palpable. A student in the back, a crystalline being known as Tharix, raised one of its shimmering arms. "But, Professor, the Zorg and Nebula is a place of chaos. It defies every known law of physics. No ship could possibly survive the gravitational shifts, the radiation storms, the—" "Yes, Zarix," the professor interrupted gently, "you are correct. By all accounts, the Zorg N Nebula should be a death sentence for any vessel that dares enter it. And yet, the humans went in. He clicked another button, changing the holographic display to a grainy recording of a human ship, a rather unimpressive hunk of metal compared to the sleek crafts designed by more advanced species. The ship was surrounded by swirling clouds of gas and plasma, pulsating with chaotic energy. Yet, somehow, it remained intact. This is actual footage taken from the Federation's monitoring stations along the nebula's edge, Professor Sci-Fi continued. The ship in question, the Endeavour, captained by none other than Jack Harper. The room was utterly silent now, all eyes fixed on the hologram. They entered the nebula to investigate a strange energy signal that the Federation had deemed too dangerous to explore. Every other species respected the warning. Humans, however, he paused, letting out a low whistle-like sound. They called it a challenge. More than a few students groaned or rolled their eyes. The audacity of humans was a well-known fact in the Galactic Federation, a characteristic that often baffled other species. How did they manage to survive? Asked Zorak, the Velian, still recovering from his earlier molting episode. That, class, is the question that has puzzled scientists across the galaxy, the professor admitted. Our best guess is that they employed some combination of that infamous improvisation and luck. Concepts that, quite frankly, make no sense from a scientific standpoint. He switched the display to show a timeline of the expedition. They were inside the nebula for a total of 3 rotations, and during that time, they encountered no fewer than 7 deadly phenomena that should have torn their ship apart. But it didn't, Professor Sci-Fi added, a hint of incredulity creeping into his voice. Not only did they survive, they made contact with a life form previously unknown to the Federation. The students exchanged confused glances. A life form? Tharix asked. What kind of life form could exist inside such an environment? The professor raised his head, his antennae twitching in thought. That, my dear students, is where the story takes an even stranger turn. He flicked the display again, revealing the blurry image of an enormous ethereal creature. It looked almost like a massive jellyfish, but its tendrils extended far beyond what seemed possible. The being shimmered with energy, its form constantly shifting and changing in the swirling clouds of the nebula. This is the life form the humans encountered, a creature that appears to be made of pure energy. We've never seen anything like it before. The humans, remarkably, managed to communicate with it. Gasps echoed through the room. Alien species that had been studying communication for millennia struggled to speak with even the most basic organisms from their own galaxies. Yet humans, in their usual absurd fashion, had done what seemed impossible. Gloop Thorpe, still bubbling with curiosity, asked, How? How could they communicate with something like that? Professor Sci-Fi sighed. I wish I had an answer. The humans claim it was a combination of empathy and something called gut instinct, neither of which, as you know, are terms that hold any meaning in our scientific lexicon. He clicked the display again, showing another image of Captain Jack Harper standing at the helm of his ship. His face bore that signature human smirk, a blend of confidence and recklessness. The humans shared information with this creature, and in return, it guided them safely out of the nebula, a feat that no other species has managed. By now, the students were completely enthralled. Even the usually detached TX-42 emitted a series of beeps that translated into, humans defy logical parameters. And here's where it gets even stranger, the professor continued. Upon their return, the humans did not document the full details of their interaction with the creature. They left much of it unexplained. The crystalline being, Xarix, flickered in confusion. But why? Wouldn't they want to study the encounter further? Ah, you see, Professor Sci-Fi said, shaking his head. That's where humans differ from most other species. They are curious, yes, but they also possess a unique sense of preservation. Sometimes, they prefer to leave things alone. especially when they involve forces they do not fully understand. He shut off the holographic display and turned to face the class. And that, my students, is why the Zorg N Nebula remains off-limits to the rest of us. The humans may have survived it, but I would not recommend anyone else try. Whatever they encountered in that nebula, it changed them. They returned different. The class buzzed with a mix of disbelief and fascination. Professor Zeig-Soppel allowed the chatter to continue for a moment, observing how deeply the story of the human's impossible feat had affected his students. Even those who had mocked humans earlier were now leaning forward, their eyes, if they had any, wide with curiosity. A small, lizard-like student, Clicky, who had remained silent throughout the lesson, raised one of her claws. "Professor, you said the humans returned different. What do you mean by that?" The room quieted again, and Professor Zeig-Soppel sighed, as if struggling to find the right words. Different, in ways that are difficult to quantify. The crew of the Endeavour exhibited signs of heightened awareness. Their reactions were faster, their problem-solving abilities more intuitive. It was as if their time in the nebula had evolved them. Another student, a floating orb of light known as Vaya, shimmered as it spoke. "Are you suggesting that the nebula, or perhaps the creature, altered their biology?" The professor hesitated. Not necessarily their biology. Perhaps their perception of reality itself. The humans reported seeing things, patterns, connections between events and places that shouldn't be related. It's as if the nebula had expanded their minds, allowing them to grasp concepts beyond what we consider possible. Sarix, the crystalline being, chimed in once more. "If that's true, Professor, why haven't they shared this with the rest of the Federation? Wouldn't such knowledge be of immense value?" Professor Zeig-Soppel turned to the display and pulled up a final image, this time showing a human fleet, with the Endeavour among them, positioned in front of a massive alien armada. The ships were unlike anything seen before in the galaxy, sleek, powerful, and armed to the teeth with weapons that looked far more advanced than those humans had been known to use. This image was taken 5 cycles after the Endeavour returned from the nebula. As you can see, the humans now wield technology that rivals, if not surpasses, some of the most advanced species in the Federation. Clicky's claw trembled as she asked, "Are you saying that humans gained this technology from their encounter in the nebula?" The professor nodded. There's no other explanation. Before their expedition, humans were barely scraping the surface of interstellar travel compared to the rest of the galaxy. Now they have fleets capable of holding their own against the most formidable opponents. The Federation has tried to approach them, but the humans have become reserved. Reserved? Gluck Thorpe's voice gurgled. That's not like humans at all. They're usually so. Brash, reckless. Professor Zeig-Soppel finished the thought. Indeed, but now they seem cautious. Almost as if they know something the rest of us do not. Sorak, the Velian, raised his head from his usual slouched posture, finally taking an interest. "Do you believe the humans are keeping secrets, Professor?" Professor Zeig-Soppel let out a low hum, his antennae twitching. "Secrets, yes. But I believe it's more than that. I believe the humans encountered something in the Zorg N Nebula that changed their understanding of the universe. And whatever they found, they deem it too dangerous to share with the rest of us." The students fell into a contemplative silence, the weight of the professor's words hanging in the air. "And what of the Federation?" Vaya asked, its light dimming slightly as if it, too, felt the tension. Surely they must be concerned about this sudden leap in human capabilities. The professor switched the display to a darkened map of the galaxy. The Federation is always concerned when it cannot control something. And make no mistake, humans are now something they cannot control. However, direct confrontation is unlikely, at least for now. Humans have positioned themselves as neutral, neither expanding aggressively nor seeking alliances. It's as if they are waiting for something. Waiting for what? Tharix asked, his voice reflecting the concern many in the class were feeling. The professor shut down the holographic display entirely and folded his upper arms, resting them on the podium. That is the question on everyone's mind, and it's a question that keeps many up at night, including me. He leaned forward, addressing his students with a grave tone. Whatever the humans encountered in that nebula, it's clear that they've been forever changed by it. And if history has taught us anything, it's that when humans change, they reshape the galaxy around them. The students left the lecture hall with heavy thoughts weighing on their minds. As the last of them exited, Professor Zygsopple remained at his podium, quietly reviewing the day's discussion. His antennae twitched with unease, sensing the growing tension not just in his classroom, but throughout the Federation. The humans' mysterious transformation was a topic that few dared to speak of openly, yet everyone was aware of it. His thoughts were interrupted when a visitor entered the now empty hall. Zygsopple recognized a figure immediately, a representative of the Federation's Intelligence Council. The tall, blue-skinned being, adorned with a long flowing cloak, approached the professor silently. Professor Sopel, the agent greeted, his voice soft but carrying an undeniable authority. I see your lecture has stirred some deep curiosity among your students. Zygsopple nodded, his antennae twitching nervously. It's hard not to be curious about the humans these days. The agent gave a thin smile, though his expression remained cold. Indeed, the Council has been watching them closely ever since their return from the Zorg-N Nebula. We've been particularly interested in your analysis of their sudden technological advancements. Zygsopple straightened up, sensing where this conversation was headed. My analysis is purely academic. I've only gathered information available to the public, as any scholar would. Of course, the agent said, stepping closer. But the Council believes you've gone beyond mere academic interest. You've developed insights that may pose a threat to the stability of the Federation. The room felt colder as the agent's words sank in. Zygsopple knew better than to push back too aggressively. He had been careful, but he had also heard whispers of those who got too close to the truth, and what happened to them. I'm merely presenting facts, nothing more, Zygsopple replied cautiously. If the truth is unsettling, it's because the situation itself is unprecedented. The agent regarded him for a long moment before speaking again. The humans have always been unpredictable, but this recent change, well, you've documented it well. We suspect they are hiding something far greater than advanced technology. The Council is considering a more direct approach to uncovering their secrets. Zygsople's antennae flicked in alarm. You're not suggesting conflict. The agent finished the sentence for him. Not yet, but it remains a possibility. The humans have refused to share any meaningful information since their return. If they discovered something that could shift the balance of power in the galaxy, the Council must know. Zygsopple took a deep breath, trying to keep his composure. What exactly do you want from me? We need you to continue your research, the agent said smoothly. Keep a close eye on the humans. Find out what you can about their fleet, their technology, and especially any hints of what they encountered in the Zorg-N Nebula. If they are hiding something dangerous, we need to know before it's too late. The professor hesitated. He wasn't sure how much more he could uncover without putting himself in danger. But refusing the Council's request was not an option. Not if he valued his career or his life. I'll do what I can, Zygsopple finally said, choosing his words carefully. But you must understand, humans are notoriously difficult to predict. Whatever they've discovered, it's possible they themselves don't fully understand it yet. The agent nodded, as if expecting that answer. Just ensure you are diligent, Professor. The fate of the galaxy may depend on it. Without another word, the agent turned and left the lecture hall, his cloak billowing behind him as he disappeared into the shadows. Zygsopple stood alone for a long moment, his mind racing. He had always been fascinated by humans, their unique blend of creativity, recklessness, and resilience. But now that fascination was turning into something more, an urgent need to understand them before it was too late. He returned to his desk, pulling out the data he had collected on the human fleet. There were still too many unknowns, too many unanswered questions. What had they encountered in the nebula? How had it changed them? And most importantly, what were they planning next? As Zai-Sopal sifted through the reports, a new thought crossed his mind. What if the humans weren't hiding something dangerous? What if they were protecting the galaxy from something even worse? He shook his head, dismissing the idea for now. But deep down, he knew that whatever the truth was, it would be far more complicated than anyone anticipated. And the humans, with their new power and secrecy, were at the center of it all. Several cycles had passed since Professor Zai-Sopal's unnerving conversation with the Federation agent. Since then, he had devoted himself entirely to his research on humanity's mysterious evolution, working late into the night in his dimly lit office. Every report he reviewed, every historical file he unearthed, only deepened his suspicion that the humans had encountered something extraordinary during their time in the Zorg-N Nebula. Yet, the true nature of what they discovered remained elusive. The humans, for their part, had been eerily silent. There were no diplomatic transmissions, no further trade agreements, and no more scientific exchanges. Their armada, newly upgraded and bristling with unimaginable technology, remained stationed on the outskirts of Federation space, watching, waiting. One evening, as Zai-Sopal was poring over the most recent sensor data, a notification blinked on his holoscreen. His antennae twitched with curiosity as he opened the message. It was an encrypted communication from an unknown source. The text appeared simple, but its implications were staggering. If you want the truth about the humans, meet at the coordinates provided. Come alone. Zai-Sopal's first instinct was to delete the message, dismiss it as some elaborate prank. But the more he thought about it, the more it gnawed at him. He had been searching for answers, and now they were being handed to him. Was this some kind of trap? Or had someone finally decided to reveal the truth? He hesitated for only a moment before making his decision. This was too important to ignore. He quickly gathered a few essentials and left his office, taking care to ensure no one noticed his departure. The journey to the designated coordinates was long and uneventful, the ship's navigation system guiding him through a remote and seldom-traveled sector of space. The further he went, the more uneasy he became. His mind raced with possibilities. Who had sent the message? What could they know? And most importantly, would he return alive? As Zai-Sopal approached the rendezvous point, a strange energy reading flashed on his console. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. A human ship, one unlike any he had ever encountered before. Its sleek, dark hull seemed to absorb light, and it was equipped with technology far beyond anything even his most advanced studies had predicted. His heart raced as he docked with the ship, its doors opening in eerie silence. He stepped into a dimly lit corridor, the air heavy with tension. A figure stood at the far end, waiting for him. The being was humanoid in shape, but something about them was different. Taller, more imposing than any human Zai-Sopal had ever seen, the figure wore a sleek, form-fitting suit that shimmered in the faint light. Their face was obscured by a helmet, but Zai-Sopal could feel their gaze piercing through him. "You came," the figure said, their voice echoing with a strange, almost musical quality. "I received your message," Zai-Sopal replied cautiously, his antennae twitching in apprehension. "Who are you? What is this about?" The figure motioned for him to follow, leading him deeper into the ship. "I am someone who knows the truth about what the humans found in the Zorg-N Nebula, and I'm here to show you." They entered a vast chamber, filled with holographic displays, each one showing a different aspect of the human fleet's recent upgrades. Zai-Sopal stared in awe at the data being presented, weapon systems capable of tearing through the most advanced shields, engines that could travel faster than any known technology, and most disturbingly, an energy source that defied all known physics. "This," Zai-Sopal stammered, "this can't be possible. How did the humans create this?" "They didn't," the figure said simply. "They found it." Zai-Sopal's antennae twitched in confusion. "Found it? Where?" The figure paused, the helmet tilting slightly as if contemplating how much to reveal. The Zorg and Nebula is not just a cosmic anomaly. It is the remnant of an ancient war, a war fought by beings far more advanced than anything the Federation has ever encountered. The humans stumbled upon their technology, and somehow, they've managed to harness it. Zyxopal's mind raced. Ancient beings, a war. The implications were staggering. If the humans had discovered such powerful relics, it would explain everything: their sudden advancements, their secretive behavior, their refusal to engage with the Federation. But it also raised more terrifying questions. Why haven't the humans shared this information? Surely they understand the danger of keeping such technology to themselves. They understand, the figure said, that a voice taking on a darker tone. But they also know the truth. This technology comes with a price. The more they use it, the more it changes them. Zyxopal's antennae flicked in alarm. Changes them. How? Physically, mentally, perhaps even spiritually. The humans are evolving, but not in the way you or I would expect. They are becoming something different, something not entirely human anymore. A chill ran down Zyxopal's spine. And the Federation, what happens if they find out? The figure turned to face him fully, the faint glow of their helmet illuminating Zyxopal's anxious expression. That's why I brought you here, Professor. The Federation must not interfere. If they try to take this technology from the humans, it will mean war. And with the power the humans now wield, the Federation doesn't stand a chance. Zyxopal felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. The Federation had always viewed humans as unpredictable, but this was far more than anyone had imagined. The humans had become something new, something dangerous, and now the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. "What can I do?" Zyxopal asked, his voice barely a whisper. The figure regarded him for a long moment before replying. "You must convince the Federation to leave the humans alone. Let them evolve. Let them adapt to their new reality. It's the only way to avoid total destruction." Zyxopal nodded, though fear and uncertainty swirled within him. He had sought the truth, but now that he had found it, he wasn't sure he wanted it anymore. As he made his way back to his ship, Zyxopal couldn't shake the feeling that something far greater than anyone realized was unfolding. The humans had changed, and soon, the entire galaxy would be forced to confront that change, whether they were ready or not.